Hello and welcome to the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Chicago Bears beat reporter Michael Dwojak here with Joe Aguilar as we talk to you folks on Tuesday afternoon, a different time for us, obviously with the Monday Night Football game, travel and all that sort of stuff. But Joe and I are able to talk to you folks here this Tuesday afternoon as we recap a crazy game on Monday Night Football between the Bears and the Commanders. Bears getting revenge after last year's Hail Mary game. Maybe we'll finally put the Hail Mary game to bed. But the Bears walk off with Jake Moody hitting a last-second field goal to give the Bears a 25-24 win over the Commanders over in Maryland. It's a game that the Bears never win, which I feel like was really telling about, and we'll get into all the details and all this sort of stuff about what happened, what worked, what didn't. But Joe, for this team to somehow win that game, I feel like that just tells you about, 5 games in, whatever you want to call it. But it really feels like this is just different under Ben Johnson than obviously what we saw last year.
Yeah, and these were the games they lost last year. Not only the failed Mary game, which hopefully we'll only have single digit times. We'll talk about that again the rest of the year. It'll come up again surely, but it's nice to see them winning close games. It's nice to see them winning games at the end when coaching matters, when they're executing at the end of a half, whether it's the first half or the second half. It's different. Are they there yet? No. I heard the guys on ESPN talk this morning. Are they pretenders or are they contenders? It's like, I'm not going there. I'm not saying they're playoff contenders. We still have a lot of football games left to be played this season, but it's certainly trending in the right direction. And 3 wins with a good chance to make it 4 in a row is where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we talked about. I feel like I keep restating this fact, but sometimes you just have to win ugly in the NFL, right? Like good teams win ugly, good teams lose. Like that's just how it kind of goes in the NFL. And you found a way to win a game, right? Like that's the best way to put it. We're not perfect by any means, and we'll get into obviously the imperfect parts and the good parts and all that sort of stuff. But you found a way to win a football game, and that's really all that matters. And that's something that this team just didn't do last year. Even with the talent, even when they were in good positions to win, they always found a way to lose games, and now they've won back-to-back games on their last possession. And I think that really, does that mean they're going to win the Super Bowl and make the playoffs or win the division? No, that doesn't mean any of that. But I think it shows you the progress that they're kind of taking here. If you're joining us on the live stream, thank you so much for joining us, especially since I know we're doing this last minute. Robert is in the chat joining us from England. Great to hear from you, Robert. So glad we won. This way we're allowed to talk about the bad officiating. I'm sure Joe and I will talk about that as the game kind of moves on. But thanks so much for joining us on the live stream. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you like us. That's the best way to support us, best way to kind of spread the word about the live stream. And if you're listening on the podcast, make sure you check us out on if you want to join the conversation. We always get some good conversations with the folks here in our comments. So, or if you just want to listen live or watch our our bookcases. Joe's got a better bookcase situation than I do, but I'm building toward it. But if you want to watch us talk and want to be part of the live stream, obviously make sure you're following us there as well. All right, Joe, let's just get into it. Obviously, every game day or every recap, we like to do 3 winners, 3 losers. We'll each talk about who we think were winners and losers. And, I feel like this is a perfect game for this because I feel like we're not going to struggle with either category where even though the Bears won in a last-second fashion, I feel like there's a lot to talk about. So we'll start off in the positive, Joe. What's your number 1 winner after yesterday's win?
Well, there are a couple obvious ones. I'll just pick the running game and DeAndre Swift in particular. He was the MVP. Did either of us have him last week as our MVP for this game? I think you did have him. Good. I thought they'd be able to run the ball better. I was hoping.
I was hesitant about it, and look at that. My hesitation paid off.
That was a good call. I said I thought they would have an improved running game because of the week off, and we'll see if they're coached up, if they're capable of being coached up, if the coaching staff knows what it's doing. Ding, 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 ding. I mean, right off the bat, and I'm thinking, how long can this last where they're getting 4, 5, 6, 7 yards a pop? And it continued through 4 quarters. It was consistent every single quarter. They ran the football game. We knew DeAndre Swift was better than what he's seen and or what we've seen and the numbers that he had going into that game. But that was his game. He's got games like that in him. He does every year. And he was special last night. But the commitment to the run game and the success, you can commit to it, but if you're averaging 2.1 a carry after 10 carries, you got to start throwing the football a little bit to move the chains. But they moved the football last night. Caleb didn't have to be great. He wasn't great, but they got the win. I'd like to see him score more points, but the running game, let's go. And we've said, once they start running the football consistently, we'll see a better passing game. Well, they really didn't complement each other last night as I thought it might, but they ran the football effectively, and DeAndre Swift had himself a game, not to even mention the 55-yard touchdown catch that really got that fourth quarter comeback going.
Yeah, I mean, DeAndre Swift had a season-high 108 rushing yards. He had 67 receiving yards. And yeah, I agree. He is the reason. It's not just him, but he is a major reason why offensively you won this game. I mean, that 55-yard touchdown reception where Caleb admitted after the game that play call went horribly. Like it wasn't at all what he wanted it to be. He had to adjust mid-play, he said, but he was still able to get that ball over to DeAndre Swift. He shimmied in the sideline from my vantage point. I thought he was going to go outside or out of bounds, but he stayed in bounds, and obviously that really turned the game there. It was a 26-24 game at that point. Obviously, we know everything else that kind of happened after that, but yeah, I agree. DeAndre Swift, it just kind of felt like he was, man, it feels like he's been scratching, right? Like he's been so close with a lot of these games. He's been, swallowed up a lot in the first 4 games of the season. So you felt like he was due. And man, did he kind of give you a big performance. Like he showed you, and I think I talked about this when I chose him to be my most valuable Bear, but he showed you what he can do as a pass catching threat. Like if you get the ball to him and like at least a little bit of open space and some decent blocking, he's going to get you 10, 15, 20 yards. Obviously you got you 55 yards on that play. So yeah, I agree, Joe. This felt like a big game for him. And it was good to see the other guys get, running. Roshan Johnson got his first carry of the season for 6 yards. Kyle Monungai got some good looks. He had 19 yards. He looked good running the ball. I'm kind of surprised at that number at 19. Zacchaeus got one attempt for 4. And then Caleb, obviously, with his scrambles, finished with -2. But yeah, I agree. I think DeAndre Swift is a major reason why you're able to win that game. And it's good to see him kind of step up here after a slow start. And I'll think you. Sorry, go ahead.
I thought you were going to go to your number 1.
No, you're good.
100%. And we'll see more games like that. I'm not saying we're going to see it Sunday again, too, but he's got it in him. And he was due. Bears fans were due. The team was due to have a game like that running the football.
I'll kind of piggyback off of your first one with my first winner. The offensive line was a big winner. They are the reason why. I think DeAndre, obviously, he made some nice cuts. He made some really good runs, but he had lanes. And this, like Monday night was the first time where you can finally say, okay, like he actually has lanes to run through. Like I thought Darnell Wright had one of his best performances, of his career, let alone this season, like after that 4-game start, which is insane because he had a cast or whatever you want to call it on his right elbow. So you'd kind of figure after coming back from an injury, you'd be like, well, how's he going to look? Is he going to be limited in that kind of stuff? Like he put together a great performance. I think you're seeing Drew Dahlman and Jonah Jackson building some chemistry. And Theo Benedict in his first start at left tackle, he looked really good. I mean, he looked really dominating down the field when he was blocking on runs. Obviously, Joe Thuney plays a big part of that. It's funny. I feel like Joe Thuney, obviously, I feel like when you're an all-pro, you just kind of get lost in the shuffle because it's kind of like you're expected to, be an all-pro. But I saw an NFL Next Gen Stats had that he did, or whichever one of those places, he didn't allow a pressure or a sack in the game, and you just kind of expect that from Joe Thuney at this point. But yeah, I think everyone on the offensive line did a great job. I think Drew Dahlman, sure, maybe there were a couple high snaps. The ball was really wet. It was not good conditions to play football in suburban Maryland yesterday, but the offensive line, that's exactly what you want. Now, are you going to get that every single week? I don't know, but it's really encouraging to see that they were able to finally click, and that's the major reason why that offensive running attack finally was able to kind of get something going this year.
Yeah, 100%. And Joe Thuney, you hear his name at the beginning of the game when they announce the starters, and then you don't hear it the rest of the game. And that's good for if you're an offensive lineman. I mean, he's just being steady and doing his job. But we're not saying, false start. I don't even know what number he is, 65. I don't even know what number Joe Thuney is. But we're not hearing him false starting or a holding penalty. He's just consistent. But I agree 100% on Darnell Wright. Looked really good for a guy who going into the weekend didn't know if he was going to play. There was talking about Ozzie Trapillo getting the start there. And then Bennett, it was, I think, probably a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker.
Sure. Yeah.
But good last night. And you're right. There were some lanes there, and they deserve, I didn't mention them in my little 3-and-out thing, but absolutely 100%. They played a really good football game yesterday.
Yeah, you have to be really encouraged by that grouping. Obviously, we'll see how it goes. But if that grouping is able to kind of keep things moving in that direction, I think you have to be really encouraged about what this run attack can do. And then hopefully you can kind of get Manungai. If you want to get Johnson involved, obviously, maybe you can get them going a little bit more. All right, Joe, who is your second winner?
Well, you know how I love the kicker. I got to go with Jake Moody. I mean, the game winner itself, I know it wasn't, a 60-yarder like some of these kids kick it today, but it was still, like you said, Michael, it wasn't ideal conditions last night. And I don't know, I think the ball was spotted at the 18 where the drive stalled, if I'm looking at the play-by-play sheet correctly, and ended up being a 38-yarder. So I don't know if they moved the football back a little more. The kick before where he had blocked, a little aligned drive. I don't know if that's been his kind of knock as a kicker in the league. But I don't know if they moved it back just to be a little safe. They had plenty of distance. You're inside 40 yards. That wasn't going to be an issue. But that aside, that nuance aside, I mean, to come in cold, I mean, it was nice that they had him stashed on the practice squad, right? Because if you're scrambling, I don't know when Cairo's situation with the thigh was like evident where he might not be able to go, because if that happened, where you thought he was ready to go, and then it's the weekend, well, you're scrambling for a kicker and searching the waiver wire, and you're just kind of, it's probably too late to bring someone in at that point. But they had him, and big redemption for him because, look, he might get cut this week again if Cairo's ready to go. That's just the life of an NFL kicker. And, he's auditioning for other teams around the league too, if that's the case. So good for him, but he certainly was clutch. And that offense, again, much like the Raiders game, like you're in position there, you're driving, let's get 6 points here, and it stalls for whatever reason, whether it was execution or pre-snap penalties, whatever. But he delivered. All those kicks were 40-plus yards until the last one. And I mean, I give the kid a lot of credit because there were probably a lot of people thinking this guy stinks. The Niners cut him. And here he is, Showtime Monday Night Football, and he delivered, and no kick bigger than the last one.
It was definitely a really cool moment. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the video on social media. It was kind of the lead of my story. Just, guys picking him up, like, hoisting him and that sort of stuff. And I mean, it was funny because we were talking to him and, DeAndre Swift, like DeAndre Swift said, I introduced myself to him, on the sideline. Like, he doesn't know a majority of these guys. Like, he's been around, obviously, the locker room for the past 3 weeks, but he's on the practice squad. He's maybe not around as much as Avi Cairo is. Obviously, the special teams guys don't really spend a lot of time with everyone else. They're usually off on the side field, working on some stuff and all those different things. But what a cool moment for Jake Moody. Obviously, the 49ers cut him or waive him after 1 week. The Bears signed him a couple of days later to their practice squad. You're kind of like, he did say that he got a chance to, he knew that he was going to be kicking the day before. Or he knew they didn't want to say specifically when they knew, but he did say that he knew heading into Monday that he was going to be the guy. And he stepped in big. Like you said, I think it was a 47-yarder for his first one, a 48-yarder for his second one. He made a third field goal. And he admitted, he said on that fourth try, he hit it too low. Like, he'll have to look at the tape, but he said, I hit it too low. Like, I think when I was rewatching it, both Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were just like, it doesn't seem like any big pressure from up the middle. It just seemed like he hit it low. But what a moment for Jake Moody just to be able to, have that moment to come in to win it. Sure, it's a chip shot, but, it very easily could have gone south really quickly with the, Tory Taylor did a good job of catching that snap. I don't know if you guys saw, but he did a good job of settling it and getting it down. So really for Jake Moody and the whole, that whole kicking crew, a really good performance, especially given the fact that, Kyra wasn't out there and you're just dealing with a new kicker.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you mentioned Tory Taylor on the hold there, because ask Jaden Daniels how slippery the ball was in that fourth quarter. So kudos to Tory Taylor, especially with the pressure on there. Right? It's you make it, you win, you miss it, you lose the game. So that was pretty clutch on all guys, and even credit to Jake Moody for crediting Tory Taylor and Scott Daly, the long snapper.
Yeah. And Robert's chiming in. He's got Tory Taylor as his winner too. He's coming off with a big punts this season. He has been looking a little bit better, which is great to see. All right, I can go into different directions, but I really think for my second winner, and I used this one again last week, but I feel like it's important. The coaching. I think the coaching is just, if you just like comparing it from last year, it's just night and day. It is just a professional team. Guys know what is expected. Guys know what to do in certain situations. Like the Bears get gifted this opportunity, right? Jaden Daniels somehow fumbles the ball and the Bears take over at, I think it was like the Bears 40 or something like that. And they've got a little over 2 minutes. And Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams were, after the game, both said they were on the same wavelength. Score a field goal or score a touchdown, but do whatever you do, run the clock out and make sure that the Commanders don't get the ball back, because that even without last year's Hail Mary, that the Commanders have the ability to run a really quick 2-minute, 1-minute offense. So I thought it was really smart. DeAndre Swift gets a couple gets 5 yards, I think, on 2 carries. So that gets you to the 2-minute warning. Then Caleb completes a nice pass to Colston Loveland, which I thought was a really good play design, just an easy 5-yard pass. And the situational awareness of having DeAndre run a couple times and the Commanders burn a couple timeouts. Mm-hmm. And then when Caleb is being pressured for a sack, he knows not to run out of bounds. Like he slides in bounds, forcing the Commanders to call their final timeout. That is just, you didn't see that last year. You didn't see it in Detroit. You didn't see it in Green Bay. You didn't see it in any of those situations. And I think that just says a lot about this coaching staff, where whether it was training camp, whether it's been, ahead of this game, whether it's just on the sidelines on Monday, you are making it very clear to your players, we are doing this. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. We're not doing this in case this or whatever. This is what we're trying to do. And, I saw some people maybe being like, we'll go for the touchdown instead of the field goal. Like, what if something happens? And I think you can have that argument, sure. You obviously want to score no matter what. But I didn't think that the logic was flawed by any means. I liked the game plan. I thought it was good. Sure, could you take a shot maybe into the end zone? Yeah, but then you risk something happening, whether it's an interception or a fumble. Like obviously, like Jaden Daniels just fumbled. So yeah, the coaching for me is my second winner, and I think it's a huge winner, because I don't think you win that football game if those players aren't coached well and Ben Johnson doesn't have a very concise plan about what they want to do here in the last 2+ minutes.
100%. And I'll go right to my third positive takeaway. It kind of piggybacks and complements what you're saying here about just the end of the half execution. We've seen it really every game. Yeah. And you look, I'm on social media the whole time during the game. I know you are too. And, checking Twitter and reading and watching. And the years, for how many years now has it been? People, what are they doing with the clock? What kind of play call is that? Why are we calling a screen on 3rd and 18? I haven't seen any of that. And again, the players ultimately have to execute, but they're showing poise at the end of halves. My gosh, I'm giddy. I mean, I can't remember the last time we've seen this consistently now, where good clock management, making clutch throws. They're not making every throw. Caleb's not. I get it. No one does. Not even the best guys in the league at the position. But they and I think that's, they say, losing is contagious, winning is contagious. You need to see results. You need to see positive things coming. And look, these past Bears teams, not even just the Eberflus teams, going back before that, you get to the fourth quarter now, you're used to losing. And so you're expecting almost bad things to happen. Well, now I think, and it's early, it's 5 games, but we're seeing like a team that's like, we're fine. We're down, 8 points, 9 points, whatever. In the fourth quarter, we got time. Caleb showed some of that last year, and then the coaches messed it up. But they need to start stringing these games like this together. I don't want to look, I can't take 25, 24 games for the rest of the season. I mean, you think my hair is gray now. They'll wait till come January of 2026. I mean, it's got to stop. But hopefully they have a little easier game Sunday. We'll get to that later in a week. But I just like the execution we're seeing, the clock management. And you're right. One more thing on your point about at the end there, you maybe take one shot at the end zone. At least the Bears are not saying we're at the 30-yard line, like we've seen in past regimes. We're at the 30, we're in field goal position. Let's not try to win it with a 55-yarder. Let's try to get a little closer. And once they got inside the 25 there, okay, now you're looking at, at the 20. Now you're looking maybe now it's a 38, 39, maybe a 40-yarder, a little more makeable, even in those conditions last night. But I think they wanted to get it a little closer because they understood that. And that seems simple, but we've seen it in the past. It's not always as easy a decision, apparently, for the coaching staff as you think it might be.
Yeah, for sure. And even Caleb kind of reiterated your point of like, obviously you want to win by 30 points every single time. Like that's the goal, right? But he did say that these guys just, it doesn't seem like they get flustered. And it was kind of interesting because when the Commanders scored that touchdown to make it a 24-16 game, it really felt like things were kind of unraveling. Like the Jaden Daniels, it seemed like he was picking on the secondary. It seemed like he finally figured out, okay, like I'm going to pick on this matchup and I'm going to work on this. But, I talked to Torrey Taylor after the game. Caleb talked about this. Those guys just seem calm and collected. They don't seem nervous, which is kind of interesting because I don't know whether it's last year's experience. I don't know whether it's Ben Johnson and having confidence in him and the coaching staff, but it just doesn't seem like this group gets worried about the moment. And that doesn't mean that they're going to win every single game. That doesn't mean that they're going to come back every single time they're down, but it doesn't seem like this group is nervous at all when it comes to these type of situations. Very clear that Caleb has the clutch gene. Like, is he going to be perfect all the time? No. Like, is he going to come back all the time? No. But it's very clear that he has that gene to make plays when he really needs to in certain moments. And, sure, 5 games into the season, against the Raiders and the Commanders, you can say where was that clutch gene against the Vikings or obviously against the Lions? Sure, that argument can be made. But I think you're seeing more and more that when he's getting an opportunity, he just seems calm, cool, and collected and really knows what to do in Ben Johnson's offense.
Yep. 100%. I mean, and again, I think their best football's ahead of them. I know it's easy to say that, but I don't look at this team thinking like, well, I don't think they can play any better. This isn't like the Cubs' first half of this season. We're like, the Cubs can't play any better than that, and they did it after July. I think there's still good football ahead with this Bears football team.
All right, I'm going to finish things up with our winners here, and I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the defense, obviously. I know, obviously, they gave up 24 points. There were some moments where it seemed dicey. I mean, when they gave up that, 3rd and 13 before the fumble, you're kind of like, oh, this might be the straw that broke the camel's back. But listen, they keep finding ways to make, turnovers. Yeah. Jaquan Brisker with that first interception, he just read that play perfectly. That seems again to be that's Ben Johnson in his post game, talk with the guys when he's like revved up and ever, like he made sure to emphasize like the theory that takeaways are like accidents, like is not true. Like you need to study tape and you need to be aware of that. And that again goes back to coaching where these guys know where the ball is going to be and know tells about quarterbacks and what is going to happen, where the quarterback is likely going to be looking. And you saw that on that interception. It was great to see Montez Sweat make an impact, obviously back against the Commanders. He forced that fumble, and then TJ Edwards got the recovered the fumble. And then Nahshon Wright was just at the right place at the right time, right? Like he was reading the RPO and he saw the ball on the ground and just jumped on it. That again, sometimes you need dumb luck, right? Like that's just a game of football. But I think it's really impressive because for how good, they've been able to create turnovers, it's not like they were pressuring Jaden Daniels. I mean, they were getting pressure on him, but they only got 2 sacks on him, and I think it was 2 quarterback hits. And again, stopping Jaden Daniels is not the same as like stopping like JJ McCarthy or some other person that I'm not really thinking of right now. Like you see the moves that he's making over there, and that just it's insane. Like I don't know how he's getting out of that. but you have to give the defense a lot of credit where they continue to create turnovers. It was their third straight multi-turnover game, 4th out of 5 games. And you have to be really impressed with what this defense has been able to do. And quite honestly, it's the only reason why this team was in the game in the first place, because of those 3 turnovers.
Yeah. Truth be told here, Michael, I don't like the phrase right place at the right time. I've never liked it. I don't like when guys write it. It's okay if you're a player and you say it, you're being modest. Hey, I was just in the right place at the right time. I just hate it because it tells me you're just like a guy off the street and all of a sudden, something nice happened to you. If as an athlete, you put yourself in the position, being in the right place, being heads up, being aware, being prepared for potential moments like that. And yeah, sometimes it's lucky. You guys got to, they got to fumble a snap. You didn't force that fumble on the Daniels handoff at the end that led to the game-winning field goal. But just putting yourself in the right position, the cliche in sports with high school kids, they say all the time, do your 111, right? Do your part. Make sure you're in the right place. And sometimes you're going to get a bone. I mean, but that's on the athlete. And then when the bone is sitting right in front of your face, you got to be able to pounce and you got to be able to catch it and grab it and secure it, because not everyone can do that all the time. How many times we see that at any level? So kudos to the player. Kudos to Nahshon Wright, because he didn't have a good game. I mean, he's Nahshon Wright. We know what we got there. Boy, they missed Jalen Johnson, but that's another story. But kudos to Nahshon Wright for being there, securing the football, and we know what the rest is history there.
Yeah, for sure. This defense, obviously, there's fixes, and we're going to get to some fixes now. But it's really impressive to kind of see them continue to kind of do this, and it goes back to studying, like we talked about, just being in the right, whether it is right place or right time or whatever, just being able to, know what your job is and to be there and execute it at the right time. All right, Joe, it was far from a perfect game on Monday. There's plenty of things to talk about. So what's your start? Let's start things off with the losers here now. What's your first loser from yesterday's win?
Yeah, the obvious one here, again, the penalties. My God, I thought we were past that after the Raiders game. That was ugly last night. And some of the, I don't want to sound like the parent at the basketball game that complains about every freaking call. That drives me nuts. But man, the officiating. I mean, the call that wiped out the touchdown from Caleb to Adunze there when the illegal formation on Theo. Come on, they roughing the passer on Jaquan Brisker. That's just a football play. I don't think he was trying to wipe on his ankle or take on his knees. There were some really bad calls, I thought, last night. But the bottom line is it was 9 penalties for 84 yards, I think it was. That's way too many. Even Ben Johnson in his post game, which those are going viral now after every Bears win, saying, hey, imagine how good we're going to be, how good it's going to look when we get that cleaned up. Well, they got to get it cleaned up. And the funny thing, Michael, it's not just one guy. Like that guy, it's his third false start of the game. And they're spreading it around. But that's got to get cleaned up, because the few offenses in this game are good enough to overcome that. And defense too. I think it was like 4 plays they mentioned on the telecast last night. 4 plays where the defensive penalty kept the Commanders' offense on the field. I mean, that's a lot. So you take away that stuff. You take away some of those BS calls. I'm sorry. It might be a different game. Everyone's thinking the Commanders should have won the game. They blew it. I'm sure that's the narrative out there in DC today. They're saying it on ESPN. Bears got lucky. You know what? Bears had a lot of bad calls go against them last night.
Yeah, it was interesting. It's a new officiating crew. They're getting together. The umpire, I forget what his name was, but he's now a referee. It's his first year being a referee, and it kind of seemed to me that as a new crew, maybe they're being very ticky-tacky about their calls. It seems like I think by the letter of the law, you could make an argument that Theo Benedict was off the line of scrimmage, but I think you see that play all the time, and that really felt like a play that didn't really feel like a moment where you make that call, especially, not that it matters whether Rome Odunze made an amazing touchdown catch or not, but that was definitely a moment where I was kind of like, that just, I mean, sure, I can see what you're saying. Maybe it was like a centimeter off. Like, I think it's supposed to be like the rear of Drew Dahlman, but that felt like a ticky-tack call. Robert is bringing up a couple of them, and I agree. The offensive PI on Colston Loveland I thought was a little bit soft as well.
Yes,
The face mask on Nahshon Wright. I didn't get a chance to see it live, but I was rewatching it. I saw it. I mean, like Nahshon Wright after the game said he didn't even touch his face mask. And I based on the review, maybe he like glazed it, but it just seemed, I don't know. Some of those penalties were just not great. The Brisker one at the time, I said, and I think I tweeted out, man, that like I feel like you can't call that. I get it. Like I think Brisker, and it's easy for me up in the press box to say this, not as the guy who's going like 30 miles an hour toward a quarterback and trying to make a split second decision. Like it's very easy for me to say this from here, but maybe he could have made that tackle, at the middle of Jaden Daniels' body. So I get it. It's the rule. You're not supposed to go for the legs and go below the waist. He had an opportunity to avoid the lower part of his body. When you watch the replay, he doesn't really get tripped up too much. He had a very clear shot. So I think that's probably why. At the time, I didn't really like it. After looking at it, I'm kind of like, okay, I can see why this was called. But yeah, like I don't like playing the game of like the refs are in it for the Bears. They're trying to, mess with the Bears or anything like that. But yeah, it was definitely not a good. It's definitely going to be one that I think the NFL officiating offices are going to talk to that crew about and going to be looking at some of these plays and are going to be like, well, sure, this is the rule, but I think you're maybe taking it a little bit too literally.
Yeah, and other than the Benedict play really wasn't a pre-snap penalty because the play continued. But so even if let's say you take 2 of those calls away that they weren't called, that's still 7 penalties, right?
Yeah,
that's just still too many. It's still too many. They know it, but they just got to get that cleaned up because they're as an offensive unit, they're just not there yet where they can overcome this all the time. It's really tough. So I'll say it. Ben Johnson has said it a million times, I'm sure, already to his players. You got to get that cleaned up, and then let's see the Bears play. Like, have we seen the Bears play their best game yet? No, I mean they got a good game.
Maybe the Cowboys, if you want to say that. I think they were pretty clean in that game.
Yeah, they got the turnovers. They weren't great. They were still giving up too many long running plays, but that was pretty good. But I think they've got at least a couple more better football games in them this season. When it happens, I don't know, but it's coming. But we all want to see it happen. Like, I want to see the first round picks be more involved. I just have to be patient. I think it's coming.
Yeah, to me, it was also a surprise. You come out of the bye, you can't play like that. And even like, I agree. Like, and I think Robert makes a good point there. There are penalties and you made the same point, Joe, that they have penalties. Like they weren't all the refs just making them up and trying to put them on the Bears. Like maybe 1 or 2 of them, you could argue them, and you just can't do that. And sure, the false starts aren't there anymore. But like the penalties are there, and that's kind of piggybacks into my first one. The inefficiencies are just not good up to this point. The Bears finished the game 3 of 10 on third down. They were 0 for 1 on their lone fourth down conversion, and you just need to convert. That is just how you settle for field goals instead of going for touchdowns. That's how you are just not. And I don't know what the solution is, because some of the plays, Zacchaeus, when it's either Caleb misses someone or the route runner isn't running the route, and it's just confusing to know what the problem is in that instance. So that needs to be fixed. The third down inefficiencies are not good. You can't win. I know they won this game, but you're not going to consistently win in the NFL if you're going 3 for 10 on third down. You need to convert on third downs, and they're just not doing it at this point. And the red zone too. I forget what their red zone situation was, but they also are. Yeah, they were 1 for 3 in the red zone, while the Commanders were 1 for 1. That's got to be higher. I know that's 33%, but when you get into the red zone, you got to score touchdowns. You got to leave the field goals for like 40 yards or like 50 yards or something like that. But when you're getting into the red zone, you got to get 6 points. And it just felt too often that this team would get really good drives. They'd move down the field, and then a bad third down play just happens. The third down play at the end of the third quarter, where I think they still had time on the play clock, but for some reason they decided to go with the play it's a high snap. Caleb is just forced to kind of, go down, and then you start off the fourth quarter with a blocked field goal. Like, it's just moments like that where you're just kind of like, man, this has to be cleaned up, because you're lucky you won this game on Monday. And, I don't want to say luck, but like, you need to execute on those plays in order to, win consistently. And you're not going to keep doing it if you're just, playing at that kind of percentages.
Yeah, I thought, I'm glad you referenced that sequence there where Caleb looked like he took his eyes off the ball a little bit. I know it was a little to his left, maybe a little high. He's got to catch that. And then they get the block field goal. And I thought, here we go. The beginning of the end here. And it certainly looked like that for the next several minutes. But you can't have it. And I expect touchdowns when you get down there. And hey, you got the weapons. You got two big, strong, burly tight ends, right? You got Burden, you got DJ, and hope he's okay, by the way. I know he stayed in D.C. overnight. And you got a Rome. And again, they should have had that one touchdown, the Benedict play, the illegal formation that wiped out. That would have been a nice 6 points, Caleb to Rome. But you need to score there, because you're not going to keep winning 25-24 every week. It's nice. You'll take it. A win's a win. But you got to get 6 when you get inside the 20.
All right, Joe, what is your second loser from the weekend?
We got to talk about Caleb a little more here. I had him in the 3 things that didn't work part of my story last night. I had him as one of the things that didn't work. I mean, I probably could have left him off. I don't think he was awful. I just thought he'd be better. I thought maybe the guy, wanting to prove he's better than he was still deserves to be the top pick in the 2024 draft. I thought that would motivate him a little bit. I thought we'd see a little better, especially coming off the bye week, a little sharper. He was still off target on some throws. Couple of these things, like I want to see this kid. I think you've talked to him with other reporters up close. He seems like a very likable young man, very sharp, made for the moment. The fourth quarter. But I'm so tired of the media, national media in particular, picking on him. They're still talking about, again, still giving Drake May all the love and Jaden Daniels all the love. And hey, you know what? These guys have played great, no question about it. But I really want to see this kid succeed. And so last night when he like that, there's an opportunity to show the world again that, hey, you're the man. There's a reason why you're the number 1 pick in the draft last year, not the Commanders quarterback, not the Patriots quarterback, not Michael Penix, not Bo Nix. And it didn't happen last night. So I know it was a crappy night on the field there, windy and rainy. And, Jaden Daniels didn't have a particularly great game. He had the 3 touchdowns. Tell you one thing about Caleb, and I'm making this more of a positive than a negative. He didn't turn the ball over, unlike the other quarterback. He didn't throw the interception in the red zone. He didn't bobble a handoff when you're, a few yards of probably ice in the game there with a field goal down the stretch. So Caleb, and that was a positive last year with him. So, not turning the ball over. And this year, I don't have the numbers in front of me, TDs to interceptions, but, he didn't throw a touchdown pass last. Only the one to Swift, that little screen that went for 55. But no turnovers. No interceptions, no fumble. So in that regard, it's easy to overlook that sometimes. But that was probably the difference in the game, right? Bears quarterback didn't turn the ball over. Commanders quarterback did. So I just want to see a little more out of Caleb.
Yeah, I agree with you. Where it kind of feels weird saying that he's not a loser. I think he threw for 252 yards. Like he managed the ball well. He obviously managed the game winning drive well. But I do think that you can say. And I know people were so mad at Troy Aikman for giving him such a hard time and all that kind of stuff, and the whole Troy Aikman, Caleb Williams thing. But listen, Caleb was not good mid-range. Like, he was struggling to complete passes that were open. And I know, some of them were, the first time, I don't know whether there was the miscommunication with DJ Moore on the first 3rd down that they faced where they had to settle for a field goal. With Zacchaeus a couple times, I feel like there was some miscommunication. He was off with some throws, some deep throws as well. Those are just like the layups for me that I feel like he needs to get better at. And I think he does a great job of improvising. I think he can hit the long shot. I like that he was able to, make that pass to Rome Odunze that didn't get called for a touchdown. The Luther Burden throw, where he was able to get a lot of yak was really nice too, right? And being able to create something out of nothing to get that DeAndre Swift touchdown. But it just feels like there are too many layups that they're missing right now. And I don't know whether it's just timing, whether it's footwork. I'm not a quarterback guru by any means, but you need to fix up those layups, because if you can just get the 5 yards here or there, prolonged drives, that's just going to make your life so much easier. And I know that's something that Ben Johnson's talked to him about. Caleb knows that. I'm not telling him something he doesn't know. But the mid-range game needs to be improved a lot, because you're just going to make your life so much easier, especially against better teams. Like, not that the Commanders are bad teams, but like when you're playing the Ravens, when you're playing the Eagles, when you're playing, the Packers or the Vikings or the Lions, like, you need to hit on those short throws to continue like moving the ball down the field, and not set up third and long.
Yeah. And even the throw to wasn't a short throw. It was the deep pass to Rome. I think that was in the first half, where at no point Rome was ever open. And he
was in double coverage. He was covered by 2 guys the entire time.
The whole time. And they were lucky that fell incomplete. I mean, that would have been a long punt, essentially, if that had been picked off. But like, that's just not there. So I don't know. It's easy to nitpick. It's easy, overall, he had a good game, decent game.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And again,
you're looking for improvement, right? Like, if you want Caleb to be the number 1 overall pick, you want him to be that guy, he has to hit those plays.
Yeah. I mean, in Washington too. I mean, look, they're supposed to maybe now, win the NFC East, and they're a good football team. It's not like you're playing a bad football team. So you have to take that thing into consideration too.
All right. My second loser kind of goes off of Robert, kind of chimed in about this one. Loser for me is special team kick returns, returning and defending. This will lose us. Games have not improved. That was actually kind of interesting, because I was kind of impressed. I think, I can't remember the exact timing now, but I think Jake Moody got the kickoffs into the end zone a couple times. But when he did it, the coverage was just not good. And it seemed like guys were just sticking on the Commanders. They weren't breaking tackles. They weren't getting around. And Ben Johnson, heading into this game, talked about how, physical this group is, how the Commanders are in special teams, and how they're versatile and they're able to kind of command you. And you saw that, like, they were able to get a lot of deep returns. They were kind of able to always at least pick up 15 yards, if not 20 yards. I know there were a couple penalties on the couple returns, but I agree, Robert. I think that's going to hurt you in a big moment. That could let a team, start a drive at the 40 instead of the 25. And that needs to be cleaned up, because I feel like for the most part, special teams hasn't really been that big of a, I don't feel like we've talked about it because it hasn't been really that big of a thing. But yesterday, I felt like it was coming up a lot, where the Commanders were just kind of dominating on kickoff and returns and the one punt return that I think that they had.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know if we've mentioned the kickoff team at all in all our podcasts we've been doing since the spring. But there have been, just off memory, without looking at the NFL stats, some long returns, and we know what happened at the end of the Minnesota game, that whole fiasco. So I think that's got to improve. I don't know. Does Travis Homer help if we get in? He's a special teams guy.
He is.
I don't know. But we talk so much about the offense and the defense and the kicking game, as far as whether it's Cairo or last night Jake Moody. But they got to do a better job of covering kickoffs, because especially with today's kickers that can boom at 60, you get to the 40, the opposing team's 40, you're in field goal range. It's silly. So that's got to be cleaned up. Good point.
Right. All right, Joe, who's your final loser from yesterday's game?
The pass rush, it was better. They got some pressure, but still not good enough. I'll give Dennis Allen credit. Like at the end there, when they had to get pressure on Jaden Daniels, they seemed to. And Montez Sweat didn't have a sack. He had the forced fumble. He had a tip pass. I thought that was huge in the fourth quarter. And one of those rushes, he almost got to Jaden. He's a tough kid to bring down, Jaden Daniels. I mean, everyone knows that. So, but it's just got to be better. I don't expect the 85 Bears with Hampton and Dent and McMichael. I don't expect that, but I need to see more pressure. They tried to get Jaquan there a couple of times, I think. I thought we'd see more out of Kyler Gordon, but, kid's got to be a little rusty. He hasn't played since last year. I don't know. To me, if they, I don't want to go. I said I wouldn't go there. I'm going here. If they're going to be a playoff team, gasp. If they're going to be a playoff team, that defense has to show more. And I know that was a good quarterback. He deserves all the accolades, Jaden Daniels. But they were without Terry McLaurin last night, who I think is a fantastic wide receiver. Debo is still, you can tell he's not 100%. Debo Samuel. So the pass rush is just, it was better. It's just not good enough by any means yet.
Yeah, and I agree with the context, obviously, of, Jaden Daniels is the best, if not, him and Lamar Jackson are the top two in my book in evading pressure. They just have something in them where they're just able to make a step to kind of, get away from the pressure. And I acknowledge that. But yeah, you got to figure out something. And, Dennis Allen was trying different things. I saw, there was a stretch there. We saw Shamar Turner on the defensive end position. He was both, on the, coming off the ground and or just not off of it, and he you're trying to look for solutions, and you noticed obviously that the defense is playing a lot more zone than man coverage at this point, and obviously we know that Dennis Allen loves to play man coverage, so that's been an interesting adjustment for this defense. But yeah, I mean you got to see some sort of pressure. It gets better, obviously, when you play Spencer Rattler this week. I don't know if he can run as well as Jaden Daniels. I don't think you're going to see a quarterback who runs as well as Jaden Daniels for the rest of the year. Maybe Jalen Hurts, but off the top of my head that I can think of, obviously other than Lamar Jackson, when you play him here in a couple weeks. But yeah, I think you need to figure things out. You just gotta land it, and maybe they would land it. Maybe this was a good performance in the context of this is Jaden Daniels, but I agree. You want to see a couple more sacks, but it was good to see Gervon Dexter have a sack and a half. So at least you got something from the middle of the pressure there. All right, wrapping things up with my last one. Joe, you touched on this, and we don't need to get into it too much, but I'd like the tight ends to get involved a little bit more. You've talked about this. Colston Loveland had 3 targets. Cole Kmet had 2 targets. And, I know they were used for some protection a little bit, but I don't know. You got playmakers there. And I know every week is different. Every week, you're focusing on different deficiencies on the defense, but I just feel like 5 games into the season, I'm not an offensive guru, but I feel like you got to get the tight ends more involved. And that's just something I'm looking for. I don't feel like the Bears are doing it enough right now. I don't know whether that's, play calling. I don't know whether that's just guys not getting open or Caleb not seeing them. But your tight ends, you have 2 playmaking tight ends, and I don't think you're taking advantage of them at all right now.
Well, yeah, you know where I stand. I mean, Colston Loveland, I think he had a season high 2 catches last night for the 10th pick in the draft. I mean, come on. And, when he gets the ball, he's like Luther Burden. Luther Burden made another nice catch downfield, a couple of zig and a zag, deacon the guy. Get the ball in this guy's hands, for crying out loud. And they did on one. It was like his little, almost like a lateral. It was a forward pass, and he gained some yards. But I need to see more of him and Loveland. I mean, I got to believe – we have months to talk about this down the road, but this might be Cole Kmet's last year here. Maybe they're just kind of like a slow move into the position, the understudy. But boy, that's a beautiful weapon you got there in Colston Loveland. And for the life of me, I don't know what it is. I want to see more and more of that kid and Luther Burden. I'm probably going to be saying that every week until it happens.
Yeah, I mean, you got playmakers there. And, for Luther, it's obviously tough because, you got DJ Moore, you got, Roma Dunze, you got OZ, you got Cole Kmet, and you throw it to DeAndre Swift. Well, that's a whole, we can get into
that's another 2-hour show.
We've talked about this a lot, obviously. I think I understand your point of that. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's the thing where you get these mismatches and you get opportunities like that. But yeah, I agree. If you got playmakers like Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, you got to use them. And you used Burden a little bit yesterday. I think that was probably his second best, most productive game other than the Cowboys game. But yeah, maybe that'll change this week against the Saints. But I just thought that you have good tight ends. I think Cole Kmet has shown you. I know he had a bad game, obviously, the last, against the Raiders, but I think he's shown you that he can be a dependable guy if you use him. Robert chiming in before we say goodbye. He's got a question. What it was, in your opinion, improve the running game on both sides of the ball? Is it Theo that much of an upgrade? Is it TJ being back? For me, Joe, I feel like for the offensive side of the ball, everyone's just doing their job. And that's something that Ben Johnson has been harping on ever since he came here. Like, yes, I think the offensive linemen were better. I think that they were doing a good job of setting the edge, but your wide receivers were blocking for you too. DJ Moore was blocking for you. When you look at the tape, all these wide receivers are blocking as well. The tight ends are blocking as well. And that's been Ben Johnson's big thing, no block, no rock. And I think you're seeing right now that that's what that could look like when everyone is doing their job. Would you agree, or do you think it's something else offensively?
No, I agree. And I just think that the whole continuity issue too. Kevin, those guys have another game under their belt. I know they've had the injuries issues with the tackles on either side of the ball, but the more they play together as a unit, I think it'll get better. But maybe it's just going to take some time just them to start trusting those linemen where you don't have to leave a tight end in all the time. But I trust in this coaching staff. I was happy again that they look like a better football team running the football. And I wasn't sold on the 7th round pick, the running back for Washington. Like he's like the next big thing here. He's a good player. He's shifty. He's kind of he's Monungai 2 or Monungai 1 and Monungai is Monungai 2. I don't, whatever the case. But I think that it wasn't like you're running against, you were trying to stop Bijan Robinson or Saquon or something like that. So, but it was better. And I think, again, coming out of the bye, I probably should have mentioned that more in what I wrote last night for this morning. That was a real positive for me, just that they looked like a better football team, even though they lost. They still look like a better football team than 2 weeks ago to me.
Yeah, and I think having TJ obviously and Kyler Gordon are just important. Those are guys who know how to do it. Obviously, tough injury for Noah Sewell, and obviously we're hoping the best. Yes. I know he left the game with the concussion after some friendly fire there from Jonathan Ford, but it'll be interesting to see whether that continues once you get healthier and guys get some rhythm back with each other. All right, that is everything that we've got, folks, for this week's episode. It was a good one. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you to Robert and everyone else who joined us on the live stream. Make sure you like us and make sure that you subscribe. That's the best way to support us, help us grow our live stream here. And if you're joining on the podcast, want to be part of the conversation, make sure you check out our social medias. We like to talk every Friday morning and Monday morning, but like days like today when we had a Monday night game, we have to be a little bit shifty here. So thanks so much for joining us on the live stream. And if you missed us, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. Bears will be getting ready for the Saints. We're finally going to have a noon game here. We've got a stretch of noon games here, which I am very excited about. Noon against the Saints at Soldier Field. We'll obviously preview that for you folks on Friday morning, so make sure you join us then. Make sure you're checking out all of Joe's work at Joe Aguilar 64. He's got the Northwest Herald area covered for you. And make sure you're checking in with me for Bears coverage at Dwojak 94. I'll have the latest from Ben Johnson, who's set to speak here in 7 minutes. And we'll also, I think he'll have an update on DJ Moore, like Joe alluded to a little bit earlier. DJ Moore stayed in the Maryland area as a precautionary medical reason. We'll get some more clarity about that. I know that he got dinged up a couple times during the game and went into the medical tent, so hopefully we can get some more clarity from there. But thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, guys, and we will talk to you folks on Friday morning as we preview Bears versus Saints. Until then, we'll talk to you guys down the road.